Now I'm going to work on the winter sunset. The first thing I want to do is create the base color for the land. And the dominant color that I'm seeing everywhere is this light lavender purple. So I'm going to pick up, I picked up a little bit of the aqua violet, but then I think I also have a bit of the ultramarine blue in there. So try to grab some of that and stir it in. Oh, that looks nice. Okay. And I'm just going to put that down over the bottom of my painting. Uh-oh, what was that? Oh, that's fine. There's some kind of notification that popped up. I didn't want to run out of space. All right, as I approach the bottom, I see it gets a little bit lighter, so I'll add some more white here. I have a little bit more white up here where these, I can't tell if it's fog or just like patches of snow or whatever coming in over here, but it gets lighter up in that area. And then over here where I have all these trees, I probably want to bring in a little bit more of that blue again. So I'll pick up some of the ultramarine and we'll paint that in down here in this area. Another place that I'm seeing it is on this hillside here. I just want to take an angle measurement and paint a little bit of that in. So the viewer's eye is beginning to move in that direction. Oh, that's a little bit too much. Yikes. Let's see if we can blend that in. Okay, good. That was easy. No problem. Okay, and that gets kind of patchy, but then we have a lot of like tree coverage there, so whatever looks awkward can be hidden with the pine tree. There's a bit of that shadowy color up here, and then at the base of the mountain. All right, now I'm going to switch brushes, and I'm going to get a really dark bluish purple, and I'm going to paint those mountains in. So I'm not going to add any white to that. I'm just going to pick up the pure color. Blue, there's purple. All right, that's getting kind of dark. Looks good. Yeah, I'm just going to do natural looking mountain shapes. I feel like this brush is a little bit too soft, so it's kind of difficult to control. I might swap it for a different one in just a second. All right, that's looking pretty good. And now I'm going to start painting in some of those pine trees. Wait a minute. No, I don't want to paint them in yet. I'm going to paint them in next. But I have a little bit of a darker shadow here on the land. So let me just put that in first before I paint the pine trees in. That's really subtle, but it's important. All right. All right, now I'm just gonna add a little bit of black to my purple to get a really dark shade. I'll start with my darkest trees first, and they're all pine trees, so I'm just going to create a little bit of texturing here. problem is that the background is super wet right now. So it's just all that color that I'm putting down is blending in with the white. And it's not really working. So I'm going to pause the video for a moment and hit that up with the hairdryer. Okay, I was able to dry that, and I got a little bit darker with that first tree layer. And now I'm just adding some shadow colors to the snow. I thought that that made a big difference when I started putting those shadows in. And just a little bit of light blue that goes underneath the trees. Adds a little bit of interest to our painting. Remember what I said about painting everything that's in the background first? Well, that's kind of what we're doing. There are larger trees that are closer to us that are going to be painted in over some of this stuff. Okay, now I'm just working on pulling in some of those blue shades that I see behind everything else before I put the trees down. There's some of it over here too, in the foreground. I did actually use some of the cerulean blue for that. That's a little counterintuitive because there's so much purple in this painting. And we tend to use ultramarine, you know, for a blender when we're moving toward purple. But I think the cerulean adds a really nice contrast. Just add some more interest to the landscape. Okay. I just want to hit up the base of these mountains one more time and get that to fade into the rest of the image. All right, now I'm going to go back into that and start adding my larger trees. All right, I want to make sure that I start at the top and I figure out where the trunk of the tree is going. And once I do, I can paint in these branches. Typically I say branches point toward the sky, but in this painting, they're obviously being weighed down by all the snow. A little bit of black to that purple to create more depth in the tree. And don't worry about the snow yet. We could put that on at the end. I'm just going to paint in those dark spaces. And here's another tree over here. So you can get dark with that. Yeah, the tip will have a little bit of a point sticking up. And these branches will come down on the side. All right, and then there's one over here. So I'm pick up a little bit more paint on my brush and make sure that the point at the top sort of follows that triangular pattern, so that everything up here is a little bit thinner, or narrower, sorry, not thinner. And then as we go down toward the bottom, it becomes wider, kind of like that. There's a few more darker areas over here that I'll paint in. And there's one more tree over here in this corner. And that darkness seems like it goes all the way out to the edge. Okay, so now that we have all of our dark shadow shades in, we're going to go back in with the lighter lavender purple. And all I'm doing there is I'm just adding white. Adding white, mixing some of that aqua violet with the red in it. And I'm just going back in over my trees And I'm pulling in a little bit of that highlight that I'm seeing where the snow is where the snow is laying on the branches. Sorry, I've got to wipe some of that black off of my brush. I don't know if you guys can see what's happening here, but there's a little bit of black in that area, and it kind of mixed in with my lavender color. I don't want that to carry all the way through because that's going to look really, it'll just end up looking kind of dull. So let me just brighten that up a bit. And I think that you guys can understand what's happening here. I just have the contrast between the dark and light. And then I'm going back in with the lavender snow shade. I'm going to pause this for a bit and work on the trees. And then I'll start it up again so you can see what the end of this process looks like. And here's how this painting ended up. The trick with this one is just creating contrast between your trees. There's a part of your trees over here that I felt was blending in too much with these because they were pretty much the same color. So I took a little bit of that ultramarine blue and I started adding that to the purple because I see some blue hints over here in this section. Same thing with the trees that are down here in this area. Whereas the trees that were in the foreground and middle ground, I stuck to just using the aqua violet, black, and white. I think I still have a little ways to go with matching the colors on the snow and everything that's hanging on the edge of the branches, but so far so good. I'll leave it at that.